Hello, and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And March Madness is finally here. The bracket is set. Welcome to March. We have ourselves a tournament. We're back again, and we are going to have every single prediction for every single first round game. It's going to be a long one, so strap in. Tim, you ready to go?
Let's do it. Let's run it.
Let's run the table. So let's not waste any time starting with the West region, the 1 and the 16, Gonzaga versus Georgia State. Gonzaga is quite honestly the best team in the nation. I mean, nobody scores like these guys. You got Drew Timme and Chet Holmgren down low. They're a dynamic duo. I think this team has national championship potential written all over it. And Georgia State, I mean, they're not a big team that they start four guards. Nothing stands out to statistically. They're the best team in the state of Georgia, but it's not going to work. I got Zags. Easy pick.
Yeah. In terms of Georgia State, they don't have enough firepower to keep up with this Gonzaga team. Gonzaga's too well built, scores too efficiently. Like you said, pretty easy pick that I've got the Zags as well.
Too big, too strong, too fast, too powerful. Next, we'll go to the 8-9 of the region, Boise State and Memphis. With Boise State, they had a couple, confusing stinkers in the beginning of the year, but they have come on really strong as of late, winning the Mountain West tournament. And quite frankly, they're a matchup nightmare because they have a top 10 defense in the country. They play well together. They run good sets. And on the other side, you have Memphis, which is almost even bigger turnaround with Penny Hardaway. They struggled at the beginning of the year, but now they're playing like one of the best teams in college basketball. Their defense was a problem. They've completely fixed it. They have the athleticism, the size, the length to make a run. It's tough to pick against Boise State just because of how posing of a matchup that they face, but I'll take Memphis. I'll ride with Penny.
Yeah, like you said, Boise State is a very stout defense, and sometimes their offense struggles a little bit. Memphis, like you talked about, started 9-8. They were getting a lot of questions, but since then they've been 10-1, and like you said, playing like one of the best teams in college basketball. And I actually have to agree with you here on this one. I'm sticking with Memphis, even though Boise State showed a real turnaround with the Mountain West tournament.
2 for 2. We're rolling right along.
Oh, I'm sure we'll have plenty where we disagree on though.
That's a good
Just
point.
you wait.
Oh, yes. 5-12, UConn and New Mexico State. UConn, they looked pretty good in the Big East tournament. RJ Cole, Tyrese Martin, they got a really good backcourt there. Adama Sanogo down low. Dan Hurley is a really good coach. And on the other side, New Mexico State, they lost to Chicago State. That's enough for me to take UConn.
Yeah, UConn is a dominant team on the boards. Their front court can be the cause of a lot of matchup issues for opponents. And the Aggies are pretty guard heavy. But I just don't know if I see New Mexico State being able to outplay the battle testedness of this physically tough UConn team. So once again, I'm sticking with you, and I've got UConn as well.
Yep, 3 for 3. You said there hasn't been any disagreement.
Your words. Ooh.
Oh joy, because we got 4-13 Arkansas versus Vermont. For Arkansas, they have a really good backcourt. JD Notae, Jalen Williams down low. They're the leaders of this team. They become absolute studs. Eric Musselman, the must bust, they're riding it, and they've been red hot since January. I think this is a sleeper team that has Final Four potential. On the other side, you got the Vermont Catamounts. I mean, they statistically have upset potential. They're the third oldest team. They're the number 1 defensive rebounding team in the tournament, and they shoot the ball pretty well. But Arkansas has been red hot. I'm going to take the Razorbacks and ride Woo Pig Sooie into the second round.
Yeah. And I know you're particularly high on Arkansas and this team.
I was in the SEC video. I'm going to keep riding them.
Yeah, and I have to say I agree with you with most of your points on the fact that statistically Vermont is a team that can play with pretty much anybody coming off 3 dominant wins their conference tournament, but I don't think they've played anybody the likes of Arkansas. So for at least one more, I'm going to stick with you, and I'm taking Arkansas on this one.
You say it's coming, and I can't wait to see
coming.
When. Got
it's
the 6.
Don't
got
you
the
worry.
6-11, 6-11 in the West. Alabama, and then the 11 is a playing game, the first of the first 4. Rutgers is taking on Notre Dame. First, let's go over the Rutgers and Notre Dame game. Rutgers is very hit or miss because, they have some confusing losses over the year. They got the duo of Ron Harper Jr. and Geo Baker. This team is very, very scrappy. And Notre Dame, I mean, Blake Wesley is a stud. They shoot the threes well. They play at a slow pace. In that play-in game, I'm going to take Rutgers. And Alabama, I'm also going to take Rutgers against Alabama because Alabama's an absolute wild card. I can't make heads or tails. Like, they beat Gonzaga, but then they have some really confusing losses to like Georgia and Missouri. And you're like, what the heck is going on? And Alabama just kind of chucks up threes. So when they get cold, I feel like Rutgers, if they move on against Notre Dame, will absolutely shut them down here.
Okay. I lied. We happen to have the same very unpopular opinion. I see Rutgers coming out of this play-in game with Notre Dame. I see a lot of people talking about Notre Dame coming out of this game. But I like the veteran presence and the tournament experience that this Rutgers team has, and I see them coming out of that game. And for very similar reasons, like you said, Alabama, very shaky. They've lost 3 out of their last 4. I just don't see them getting hot at the right time. And I actually take Rutgers in this one as well. I thought that was going to be a bit of a hot take, but apparently we have the same hot take.
Well, I mean, hey, great minds think alike. And we got some pretty great minds. Right. I will say, though, we better have some differences coming up soon, or else this is going to get very, very boring very fast.
Yeah, I agree.
So moving on, the 3 and the 14, Texas Tech and Montana State. Texas Tech they're a great story because Chris Beard left to go to Texas. It's not Chris Beard, it's Mark Adams and that defense. That is the reason why Texas Tech are so successful. They're full of transfers and overlooked guys. I mean, they've locked up some of the best teams in the nation, like Tennessee, Kansas, Baylor. You either have to have a great offense to beat them, or you need to match their physicality. And this team is totally capable of moving on against Montana State, which, quite frankly, in a weak conference, they're just, it's a pretty obvious pick here. I got the Red Raiders.
Yeah, in terms of going different, I don't know if we're gonna be different for a whole lot more on this this region.
Come on,
Texas Tech overall, in terms of how battle tested they are, defense, overall identity, they check all the boxes over Montana State. That's what makes it such an easy pick for me to go with the Red Raiders.
Yeah, and now this is a matchup, the 7-10, Michigan State and Davidson, that we thought was the most interesting one in this West region. Michigan State, we talked ad nauseum about them. And quite frankly, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. This team feels very, very overrated. And this one goes out to a special friend of ours that is a big Michigan State fan. He knows exactly who it is. They played well down the stretch, but they weren't beating great teams. They like a 10-point win against like Maryland, Penn State. Just like, they don't really have any go-to scorers or like rotations. They had a way better team last year, and that team lost in the first round. They aren't very tough, and their defense hasn't been playing particularly well. Like, a lot of question marks, like Gabe Brown, Malik Hall, Max Christi, Joey Hauser. You still don't know who your best player is. I mean, Marcus Bingham, Julius Marble, like who is it? We still don't know. And this team, quite frankly, is on upset watch. They're very well coached with Tom Izzo, but still you got Davidson on the other side, who's one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. You got 5 guys that shoot over 40% from 3. They are incredibly annoying because they'll play at a slow pace, and they're a smart team that won't beat themselves. So with that being said, I don't like Michigan State that much. I'm going to pick them to advance one more round, but other than that, don't really like Michigan State going forward.
Yeah, and it's interesting with all the points that you talk about with Michigan State that we have kind of voiced in previous looks at them. But they have been playing much better as of recently, especially throughout the Big Ten tournament. They proved that they at least have some things figured out, but I still think they struggle with identity. And I think the injury to Tyson Walker, not sure if he's quite going to be back or what.
And of course, I didn't even mention Tyson Walker.
Yes, I'm not even sure what condition he'll be if he's able to come back. But I think that's going to affect their depth and flow as a team. And I think you got to look for Davidson to slow down the tempo majorly, because they do that a lot to stifle any momentum that Michigan State tries to build.
They suck when it comes to that.
And for that exact reason, I've actually got Davidson on a close one in this one.
Fair enough. Yay, we're finally disagreeing. Woohoo!
I knew we'd have at least one in this.
It only took 7 games?
Something like that. But
well, guess what? We're going to make it 7 for 8 that we're agreeing with, because you got Duke and Cal State Fullerton.
What do you mean you don't think I would pick CSU Fullerton?
Absolutely not. CSU Fullerton, they're here. Congratulations. Now go home after the first round after Duke absolutely beats the living crap out of you. It's Duke.
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right. I don't need to go into too much detail. I'd be astonished if Coach K let this this team collapsed in the first round of his final go in the NCAA tournament. This team has too much talent. Duke moves on.
Yeah, let's not overthink this. Now we're going to go on to the South, the second region that we got. And the one in the 16 here is a matchup between Arizona and the winner of Texas Southern versus Texas A&M-Corpus Christi. As much as I would love to pick Texas A&M-Corpus Christi to not only beat Arizona, but win the whole darn tournament, because that would be absolutely hilarious. Let's be real. Tommy Lloyd is manning one of the best.
Hey, Drew.
Huh?
Hey, Drew.
Huh?
You got the wrong 16 seats for this one.
Oh, do I? Oh, Wright State.
That would
Wright
be the
State
play-in for
Bryant.
Kansas.
Wright State and Bryant. My bad. The story's still the same. The story is absolutely still the same.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, like you were talking about, no matter who the teams are, no matter who wins that game, I don't care who wins the game. Neither team's going to be able to get past this powerhouse Arizona team. They're just too big, too strong, too fast for either of those teams or any of those four, even if they could choose any of those 16 seeds to play them. Arizona moves on.
Yeah, I have Arizona as well. And oops, my bad. Who cares? Whatever 16 seed.
Like you said, the message is still the same.
The message is still the same. And I'll talk about the actual 16 seeds for a little bit, because Bryant is a team we're talking about. I mean, Peter Kiss leads the nation in scoring. He's going to be an absolute problem, and we're going to get him for 2 games. And I feel like that'll be enough. So do I have the 8-9 matchup right with Seton Hall and TCU?
There you go.
All right.
Yep.
We're back in the right
Back
region.
on the right track.
I am not perfect. I make mistakes sometimes. I do that.
We accept them and move past.
Yes. Seton Hall, TCU. Seton Hall is a Big East team that they're solid if they make shots and play to their potential. They don't quit. They don't quit in games. They have that tenacity. But TCU on the other side has progressively evolved and gotten better throughout the season. They will kill you on the glass. They're led by Mike Miles, and their offensive numbers, you know, they can put up some numbers when they need to. I mean, they make up for their subpar shooting with good rebounding and defense. And I got TCU over Seton Hall.
Yeah, both of these teams have solid defenses. I like the depth at the front court that Seton Hall has, but this TCU team has the ability to surprise anybody with the way that they perform on the defensive end and how they turn that into offense. I'm not sure if I see Seton Hall making more than maybe three-pointers with the way that TCU defends the deep ball. And for that reason, I've actually got TCU as well in this 8-9 upset.
Horned
I don't even
frogs.
know. Most 8-9 games,
aren't
I'm
an
not even
upset.
sure if you could really see them as upsets, because they're
8-9s
about
aren't an
even
upset.
footing.
Yeah, it's about even. It's about a coin flip, but this one doesn't really seem like a coin flip. Who knows? On to Houston UAB in the 5-12. Houston, the metrics love them. Ken Pom absolutely loves them. But my thing about Houston is I'm going to be absolutely fading them. They don't have any quality quad 1 wins. They're not a deep team, and they don't shoot free throws well. They're one of the worst free throw shooting teams in this tournament. I mean, Kelvin Sampson will have this team ready. You can't play scared against this Houston team. But guess what? They're playing UAB, and UAB won't be scared against them. They're quick, and they're incredibly underrated. They got some good wins. Jelly Walker is an absolute bucket getter, and he is the best name in this tournament, in my opinion. And UAB's got upset written all over them. I'll take the Blazers, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I really like UAB. They have a very powerful offense. But quite frankly, I don't see it overpowering the stifling defense that Houston has. And UAB is very guard heavy, which I think will play even more into the strength of Houston's defense, despite the poor free throw shooting on Houston's part. I think they win a relatively low scoring game to move on. Got Houston.
Hey, and that's all right. Neither one of us are going to have a perfect bracket here. So
I'm gonna be honest, I don't even think I'll get very close, because the more I think about the games and the more I look at them, the more I get them wrong.
Exactly. Same thing with me. After that, you got the 4-13 Illinois and Chattanooga. We've talked a lot about the Illini. Trent Frazier and Alfonso Plummer, they're great guards. They shoot well from the outside. Kofi Coburn, matchup nightmare down low. You know, the thing about them is that they can be a boomer bust. You know, they get emotional at times, and they haven't quite clicked throughout the season. And on the other side, you have Chattanooga, a physical team with Malachi Smith and David Jean-Baptiste in the backcourt. And then Silvio De Sousa, the Kansas transfer, is an absolutely insane human being that matches up with Kobe Coburn pretty well. And he's literally smashed somebody over the head with a chair. That is why he's not at Kansas anymore. So he's pretty crazy. I know a lot of people are picking Chattanooga.
I don't think they're going to allow that in this game. I can't
No,
lie.
no. I'm pretty sure Silvio De Sousa won't be allowed to use a chair as a melee weapon to take down Kofi Cockburn. Although that would be one of the most wild things to ever happen in March Madness if it did.
Definitely
Anyway,
top three.
Chattanooga is a popular Cinderella team, but I'm going to go against the grain here. I don't see that happening. I think Illinois is going to advance to the second round.
Yeah, I get that a lot of people really like Chattanooga and the way they've gotten into this tournament and for a potential big first round upset. But I think people forget a little bit too much about the depth of the Illinois team and the guys that they have surrounding Kofi Cockburn in the middle. And despite Phil De Sousa being a very solid big, I don't see them being able to do enough to stop the dominance of Kofi in the middle. And I see Illinois moving on by virtue of like a 25+ point outing by Cockburn in the middle.
Wow. I mean, hey, I've heard people that say that De Sousa
From a dude that
Cockburn,
averages 21, I don't think 25+ is that big of a stretch.
Well, I've heard, many people say that De Sousa is a pretty good matchup for Cockburn and can absolutely shut him down. So I think either is very possible. But after that, we'll go to 6-11, Colorado State and Michigan. Colorado State will start there. They're a fantastic offensive team. They're very good from the line and from outside. They don't have much size down low, but they have some talented guys such as David Roddy. He's a pure star. He can do everything well. Isaiah Stevens is a good two guard beside him. They're incredibly fun to watch, but their downside is they may have some struggles against a bigger team down low. Enter Hunter Dickinson and the Michigan Wolverines. That team has gone back and forth all year. They racked up a bunch of losses and they started to play really well. And then Juwan Howard happened.
Boy, did he.
Yeah. This Michigan team, it's a head scratcher why they're even made it to the round of 64 anyway. But now that they're here and this is the matchup that we have to exploit, I think that Michigan upsets Colorado State. I like the matchup with Hunter Dickinson. He's an All-American big, and that is Colorado State's weakness. Give me the Wolverines.
Yeah, we think on very similar levels here. I really, really like the makeup of Colorado State and David Roddy. They have a really solid team. But I know what Michigan can be at their best. And the guys that they have that they'll go to down the stretch, I got to go with my gut on this one. I think Michigan pulls off the upset despite a lot of people saying that they don't really deserve to be here with guys, of course, like Hunter Dickinson. But you know what? A matchup I think that I see them exploiting even more is Moussa Diabate. He has been a crucial addition to them down the stretch with him gaining confidence both in the post and in mid-range and beyond. And I think that they'll be a hard duo to stop for Colorado State. And I actually got Michigan here again.
Hail to the victors, big upset for the blue and gold. Now we got the 3-14 Tennessee and Longwood. Longwood has been a really fun story to watch. I mean, look, they've had a fun ride.
Look,
come on. I can't pick against Tennessee. They're a great defensive team that's rounding into form. They won the SEC. They have one of the best resumes out of everybody in the entire field. They have wins against Arizona, Auburn, Kentucky, and then some. They got 3 really strong guards and solid bigs. And this Tennessee Volunteers team has Final Four potential. I'm not picking against them, although Longwood has been a very good story. Can't ride or die with the Longwood Lancers this time.
No, not quite. I mean, arguably the most disrespected number 3 seed. I think Tennessee's going to come into this one with something to prove and looking to build on the momentum that they built coming into the NCAA tournament with. And for that reason, Tennessee moves on to the second.
All right. The 7-10, which the 7-10s this year are just a mixed bag. Ohio State and
never
Loyola.
Know what to think about these.
Oh, yeah. Ohio State, EJ Liddell and Malachi Branham, this is their last ride. However, they're very inconsistent. They got a lot of question marks. They're pretty gassed. They've been plagued with injury. And Loyola, they're very experienced. They have a ton of seniors, and they're beginning to click at the right time. They put the MVC tourney on notice with a big, big defensive performance. They put that doubt to rest. They found their new identity. They're a huge sleeper. Don't sleep on the Ramblers. Let's go Loyola.
You know, I did not sleep on the Ramblers when I picked them to win their conference tournament. And this game for sure is set to be a complete wild card, with Ohio State having the ability to be a top 15 team in the country, but also fall completely flat. I mean, you mentioned the likes of EJ Liddell and Malachi Branham. Malachi Branham actually is only a freshman, and he has come onto the scene strong this year. But I like the defense of the Ramblers, and Ohio State has put up goose eggs against teams with far worse defenses than them. And for that reason, I have the Ramblers pulling out this one, moving on.
Yeah, let's go to the last game in the South, Villanova and Delaware. There's a lot to like about Villanova. They're a well-coached Jay Wright team. They impressed in the Big East tournament by winning it. They won't beat themselves, and they're just going to run all over this Delaware team. I mean, they caught fire in the Colonial tournament, but I'm not sure how great they are because they don't have the size or the defense to hold up with the bigger teams. Give me Nova.
Yeah, Villanova is just a really disciplined team. They usually are in terms of the organization as a whole. They're just too solid of a team, in my opinion, to get shaken up by Delaware, even if it's close. I like the great free throw shooting of Villanova to help them end up on the right side of this one. And for that reason, we've got Villanova moving on.
Yep. Now we'll go to the Midwest, where now we have Kansas against Texas Southern and Texas A&M-Corpus Christi.
There you go.
But then again, doesn't matter. I'll take Kansas.
So, yeah, it's the same conversation, different game. I just think they're too good. No way they drop this one. History certainly in their favor. They're just a really powerful team. And regardless of who they end up playing, I see them moving on.
Yeah. So then we'll go to the 8-9, which is a lot more of a toss-up. San Diego State and Creighton. San Diego State, they have a lockdown defense. However, their offense is just kind of outside of Matt Bradley. They really have nothing. They're a team that can't really beat the great teams they play, but they'll beat up on the bad teams. However, Creighton has progressively gotten so much better throughout the year. Greg McDermott has done a heck of a job coaching this team. They play great in the Big East tourney, and they're also led by their defense. They're going to be hard to beat because they play tough, smart basketball. I have Creighton moving on in this one.
Yeah, I mean, they may not score the ball very well, but San Diego State absolutely makes up for it on defense. The trio of Ryans on Creighton that we've talked about before certainly bring an interesting matchup for San Diego State. But I see their defense causing this young Creighton team to turn the ball over just a few too many times to scrape out the win. I actually, in a low-scoring game, have San Diego State moving on.
Interesting. Disagreeing on that one. We'll move on to the 5-12, Iowa and Richmond. Richmond, what a miracle team. Way to steal that bit if you're the Spiders. The A-10 tournament. I mean, they ended Dayton and VCU's chances of making the tournament.
Yep.
They can't be counted out of a game. So they've been the comeback kids. You can never count them out. But Iowa is such a good team. They have been one of the hottest teams in the country. Keegan Murray is absolutely fantastic. They won the Big Ten tournament. They're a connected team. They play well together. I got the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, Iowa reminded the world why they're an incredibly potent offense and incredibly hard to contain throughout the Big Ten tournament, of course, by winning it. I may not like it, but I don't see Richmond being able to stop their multifaceted offense, and I think the Hawkeyes move on to the second round of this one.
And that's okay. You may not like it, but there's a lot of games past the first round. Well, then let's move on to Providence and South Dakota State at the 4 and 13. Providence. This is a mixed bag for this team because Providence has some guys. They got Nate Watson and Al Durham, but then again, they're one of the luckiest teams in the nation. And that's been like the main headline for this team all year. Like when the going gets tough, they find a way to win again and again and again. But where does the buck stop? And then they got matched up with the Jackrabbits, which is one of the favorite Cinderella teams. And for absolute good reason, they play so fast paced. They're so good offensively. They're number one in 3-point shooting percentage. They work inside out, which means they don't just chuck up threes. They actually run offensive sets and they have an offensive system. They sprinted through the Summit League with absolutely no problems. I think South Dakota State is going to take an upset here against Providence. And I know it's a pretty popular upset, but still, yeah, it's a fun team to watch, the South Dakota State team.
Yeah, I mean, there is absolutely a reason and good reasons for why this is a popular upset. And in this game, I see the streak continuing of at least one number 13 seed upsetting a number 4 seed. And I think it comes by the virtue of the electric offense that South Dakota State has, like you said, with their 3-point shooting and running inside out. And I just don't see Providence's luck continuing here. I think it's going to run out. Jackrabbits advance.
Yeah. Adam Vinatieri's alma mater. We got them both. After that, we'll go with the 6-11 LSU and Iowa State. And what a matchup. This matchup
Is
stinks. This matchup is awful. It's horrible. LSU, they're an intriguing squad. I mean, they were fine. And then they fired their coach because they have a lack of institutional control with like all their major athletic programs. So like they rely on turnovers. They don't play well in the half court. They're very beatable if you play smart and slow the game down. But then you have Iowa State over on the other side. Like they're just not good on offense at all. Unless they play good defense and lock somebody up, Iowa State isn't going anywhere. There's so many red flags for both of these teams, but somebody's got to win. I'm actually going to take the upset because is LSU even going to care anymore? I don't think so. Like they've just been through so much that it's got to wear and tear on you sometime. And no matter how bad this Iowa State team is offensively, they can get a win with this matchup.
Yeah, I there's definitely two sides to this one, is where I will definitely disagree with you in the fact that I think LSU will care about winning, but whether or not they have the ability to do enough to stop the inevitable doom of this team this year, that's another question. To be rather blunt, I'm not too much of a fan of this LSU team on the way they're played. They're young and inexperienced. You can't fault them for that. But like you said, it's just been they've just been so all over the place. And I think that makes them
matchup so much.
I think it makes them vulnerable to get stonewalled by a solid defensive team like Iowa State. And I think I'm going to stick with you on this one, that the Cyclones advance on a 6-11 upset in this one.
Yeah. You think that was an upset? Watch this one. I knew I just gave it away, but Wisconsin and Colgate. Colgate is back. I picked Colgate last year. They kept up with Arkansas, and I'm going to pick them again straight up to beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin, they live and die by Johnny Davis. Who knows how healthy he'll be. Like, they haven't tracked very well in KenPom. Wisconsin plays a lot of close games. I mean, granted, they're smart. They have a high IQ team, but they're not very talented. And Colgate, they're a tricky team to figure out. They shoot the three at a very high rate. They can sneak up on a team if they're not paying attention. I don't think Wisconsin's going to be paying that much attention. They should be paying a little bit more attention. Let's go Raiders.
You know, and here's one that I'm just gonna flat out disagree with you on this one. I get that Colgate's a very solid offensive team. They shoot the ball really well from three. Their defense isn't terrible, but I don't believe that they're ready to defend this well-rounded Wisconsin team. And this is where I disagree with you, that they are not live and die by Johnny Davis. They can be if that's how they choose to make the game flow. But given the fact of their exit from the Big Ten tournament, how that happened with the performance of Johnny Davis, I think there's going to be some stress on getting people involved with guys like Chucky Hepburn, Tyler Wall. They've got guys around the floor who can score the ball and defend the ball and hold on to this game. And I just see that I think the Badgers will grind this one out and move on.
You wrong. Let's go Colgate.
We'll see about that one.
Yes, we will. After that, we have the 7-10. The USC Trojans against the Miami Hurricanes. And quite frankly, everybody's saying like USC, it's pretty overrated. Like they're just the worst free throw shooting team in basketball. I mean, yeah, they got Isaiah Mobley, Drew Peterson runs the point, but let's go with this Miami team. They're super old. They're very experienced. They're not scared of anyone. They're not going to tiptoe into this street fight. They have three really good guards, and guard play, of course, is so important in the NCAA tournament. Cam McGusty, Charlie Moore, and Isaiah Wong. They're pretty good at forcing turnovers, forcing steals. But hey, that guard play could lead them to a win. I like the Canes, baby. Throw up the U. Let's go.
You know, as I've talked about kind of throughout this second half of the season, as we covered conferences and then going into this tournament here, I've been very high of this Miami team, and I'm not going to back down from that here, despite the overall height advantage that USC has as a team. They're a team that struggles to put together full games against teams of a similar talent level or even slightly worse. And I see them underestimating the fight of this Hurricanes team. And I think it'll come down to free throws, which, like you said, is USC's kryptonite. And I think that'll come back to bite them. Hurricanes move on.
Let's go Canes. After that, you got the 2-15, the last matchup in the Midwest, Auburn and Jacksonville State. The only thing I'm going to say in this is Bellarmine should be playing in Jacksonville State's spot. Jacksonville State's going to lose. They haven't even won their conference tournament. They lost in the semis to Jacksonville, who lost to Bellarmine. Bellarmine should be dancing here. I'm disgusted. Auburn's one of the best teams in the nation overall. Auburn.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty understandable to pick. Auburn certainly had some hiccups in the second half of the season, but I think they're too talented to lose this one. They ask a lot of Jabari Smith kind of game in and game out, but I think he'll deliver enough to put down this Jacksonville State team that really isn't all that solid in my opinion, and it definitely isn't ready to defend in offense like Auburn. Auburn advances.
And now we got one more region remaining
Arguably the most wild region out of all of them.
because it's incredibly tough. Baylor,
Yeah.
Kentucky, Purdue, UCLA. Whew, got some teams here. So let's run through the region. Baylor and Norfolk State. Norfolk State, they play defense pretty well. They won their conference tournament, but Baylor's the defending national champs. They're too talented. They're going to overwhelm this 116 matchup. One seed, moving on.
Plain and simple, Norfolk State has never played a defense like the Baylor Bears, and end of story. Baylor advances.
Yep. Cut and dry. Let's go. 8-9 UNC versus Marquette. So North Carolina, they turned their season around after looking pretty average. They've been playing with confidence as of late. They absolutely smacked Duke in the mouth.
Talk about confidence.
Yeah, we covered that pretty lengthy in that college basketball weekly recap video. See, the thing about North Carolina is, like, how will they respond if they're punched in the mouth? They're a tricky team that can go far, but they can also fall flat. On the other side, Marquette, they're one of the youngest teams in college basketball. They have a ton of transfers. Shaka Smart has rebuilt this team from the ground up, but they rely on Daryl Morcell and Justin Lewis way too darn much. They make a lot of young mistakes, and I feel like they've already peaked because in the second half of the season, Butler beat them. We took it to them. Butler's terrible. I'm sorry to say it. I love the Bulldogs. I love the school that I go to, but like, Marquette is just don't have it. I'm taking UNC.
Yeah, in this game, I see two defenses that struggle and two offenses that make up for it. But I think the downfall is going to be the streakiness of Marquette. In a shootout, I like the overall lineup that the Tar Heels bring while playing some of their best basketball of the season. And I think that's a good reason for them to advance in this one. I've got the Tar Heels. North Carolina.
UNC, blue blood. But after that, we will go to the 5-12 matchup. St. Mary's takes on the winner of Wyoming and Indiana. Start with the playing game. Indiana caught absolute fire in the Big Ten tournament. They took down Michigan. They took down Illinois, both tournament teams. They're really good defensively. Trace Jackson Davis has a ton of talent, but their offense is inconsistent and they struggle to score at times. But who knows? They could keep up that momentum. On the other side, Wyoming, they're an incredibly big team. They're the sixth tallest team in all of college basketball. That trio of Graham Ike, Hunter Maldonado, and Drake Jeffries, fantastic, but that's kind of all Wyoming got. But whoever wins that game, I still think is going to lose to St. Mary's. St. Mary's is a very focused group. They have a lot of experience. They play incredibly slow and they play incredibly great defense. We saw that on tap when they beat Gonzaga. They play smart. They play disciplined. They may get destroyed against an athletic team, but I don't see them losing to Indiana or Wyoming. Give me the Gales.
I wish I didn't have this opinion. I really do. I love the fight of St. Mary's. They have a very solid defense. They play almost everybody tough, but I see one specific scenario coming out of this one. I think Indiana wins the first 4 games against Wyoming, and the combination of their imposing defense and the likes of Trace Jackson Davis will be too much for St. Mary's to handle. I don't think they have the size to contain them. Sadly, I've actually got the Hoosiers moving on in this one.
Interesting.
That's tough for me to pick.
Coming from the Purdue guy.
I don't like picking it, but I am.
Well, that's why you do it. Who knows? We'll see how it plays out. The 4 and the 13, you have.
Believe me, I will not be that. I will not be sad if I'm wrong.
I don't think you will. I don't think you will.
Not at all.
Moving on, 4 and 13, UCLA and Akron. Akron, they play so slow. I mean, they're 8-1 in their last 9, so they're hot. I mean, they're coming out of the MAC. We love me some action. But UCLA is still really, really good. They're returning all 5 starters from that Final Four team. UCLA shouldn't have too much of a problem with this Akron team and move on to the second round.
Yeah, arguably the most talented 4 seed. UCLA has all the makings of another deep run with the reemergence of Johnny Juzang and his scoring ability that has been on display lately. He struggled a little bit early midseason. I think that was some of the cause of some of their hiccups, but I don't think Akron can contain this Bruins team. UCLA moves on, plain and simple.
Yeah, it's pretty cut and dry here.
Yeah.
But then we got the 6 and 11 seed, Texas and Virginia Tech.
Boy, is this one going to be a fun one.
That won't going to be a fun one, indeed. You got Texas has a whole bunch of transfers led by Marcus Carr and Christian Bishop. They play good defense. They've had high expectations. They haven't quite lived up to it, but who knows what they bring to the table. Virginia Tech, on the other side, they absolutely torched the ACC. They caught fire at the right time. They have Hunter Couture, who's a really good shooter. They got Kivi Aluma down low. Virginia Tech has some guys. I'm picking the Hokies to continue their streak. Something special could be brewing for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little different of an avenue and say the fact that, first of all, I believe that Texas is led more by Timmy Allen and guys like him and Andrew Jones. Yeah. Oh, yes, if you're talking about specifically the transfers, but I think Timmy Allen and
specifically the transfers. Yeah, Andrew Jones and Timmy Allen have been Texas's best players.
Very big guys for Texas. And Virginia Tech, like you said, they've been on a tear. And actually, I'm going with a rather unpopular pick and sticking with a stifling defense of the Longhorns and their ability to turn you over on the defensive end. I think I see this as being one of the lowest scoring games of the first round by both teams. And I think Texas squeaks out a win.
Interesting. Hook 'em. We got 3 more games left to go. And then we're done for the first round picks, but let's speed right through them. This 3 and 14, this is not going to be a hard decision. Is it? Purdue, Yale, Boiler ball. Let's go Purdue basketball. Woo! I got the Boilers.
I mean, yeah, I completely understand this one. And coming obviously from a Purdue fan, I will 100% see this both ways, though. They've struggled to put together complete games. They have a history of lackluster performances at the tournament, but I still do believe in the makeup, depth, and veteran presence of this Purdue team. Yale is solid. They do a very good job of turning you over, which is something that Purdue definitely struggles with. So look to that be a big difference maker in this game. But I just don't see them putting up enough offense to outscore the offense of Purdue here. So boiler up, Purdue moves on.
Tim, there's something that you're forgetting. Yale is not a direction or a place school. It's not North Texas. It's not Little Rock. Come on, they're not going to lose to Yale. There's no way. Right?
That's why you play the game.
The 7-10 next, Murray State and San Francisco.
Whew.
Yeah, this is probably the hardest 7-10 because what a draw. Murray State is really good. They're a trendy Cinderella.
For these two 7-10s to face each other compared to the rest of the 7-10s, man, they're probably wishing they ended up somewhere else.
You're darn right. Murray State, trendy Cinderella team. I've actually joked that they could go to the Final Four. Who knows? I mean, they have a pretty good backcourt. Tevin Brown and Justice Hill carries that team. KJ Williams mans the center really well. And San Francisco, they're a very good defensive team. They're a 10 seed that has the potential to shock the world. They won't quit. This team's got a ton of grit. San Francisco is straight up really, really good. I like both of these teams, but one of them's got to win. I'm going to stick with the Racers, Murray State.
Yeah, this one's setting up to be one hell of a game, and I am so here for it. But I'm going to stick with the team that's won 20 straight games and has a great 1-2 punch with solid guys around them. I like San Francisco, I really do, but it's hard to vote against Murray State here. So I've got them moving on.
All right, and then we got the last matchup. Kentucky.
I love the fact that we end
and
on this
St.
one.
Peter's. Tim, you go first.
You know, Drew, I know your love for St. Peter's for whatever reason.
Let's go, St. Peter's.
But Kentucky's too powerful to be stopped by the likes of a team like St. Peter's, who just can't keep up with them offensively. Blue Devils march their way to the second round.
Interesting. Kentucky.
I'm waiting.
Kentucky, they're a very good team. They have national championship potential written all over them. Oscar Tshiebwe's a beast. You can move close to the camera all you want. Screw it. I'm taking St. Peter's. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
I knew it was coming. All
the way.
He brings out the dry erase marker.
Let's go.
Had the board out the ready.
Ride or die with St. Peter's.
I love the enthusiasm. I really do, but I hate to break it to you, is not happening.
Tim, dude, the Peacocks. St. Peter's. I wrote it on the whiteboard. It's happening.
No, there's nothing behind me, but no.
St. Peter's, it's on the whiteboard. It's official. Book it. Let's go Peacocks. That is all we have for our first round predictions. We are going to be coming at you with the rest of the predictions through all of the March Madness tournament. It's going to be a wild ride. We can't wait. Like and subscribe for more Running the Table content, and we out. Let's go St. Peter's.
Oscar Schieber is going for 2020.
All right, relax there, kid.